Welcome to Smart Remarks, where the poor will always be with us, and so too, unfortunately, will the wingers.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
So let me ask you a question. Why do conservatives hate the poor so much? Now, all right, I mean, sure, conservatives have always hated the poor. It was Ronald Reagan, after all, who coined the term welfare queen. And there's long been this belief on the right that anyone who gets welfare or other government assistance is lazy, culture of dependency, outrage! It's an old trope, but it seems to have been given new life lately. The economy is an obvious factor, but what seems to be happening is that people are blaming their troubles not on the companies that have outsourced their jobs or laid them off, but on poor people. I'll give you an example. I got an email this past week from a woman who was outraged that I should impugn Glenn Beck. Glenn's the only one telling it to her straight. But then here she starts talking about how her family has lost income to outsourcing. They're struggling, but, quote, I don't mind helping people, but when I see lying, cheating people taking advantage of tax money because they can, it infuriates me. And I thought, where are you seeing this? Are you seeing this in person? Or are you seeing it through Glenn Beck's eyes when he tells you about this? You know, we had another letter to the editor in our newspaper a week or so ago, generated a lot of talk online, where one guy was complaining that all these poor people, they get all these freebies, free school lunches, free coats, free medical care. Maybe he ought to just quit his job and, you know, become poor and get all this free stuff too.
Do it. Do it.
Again, we've always heard these complaints, but they're louder and angrier now because people are looking around for someone to blame for their own dire economic situation. And guys like Beck and Rush are telling them it's all the poor people who are living the life of Riley on your dime.
73% of the poor own a microwave oven. 63% of the poor have cable TV or satellite TV.
At a time when the ranks of the poor are swelling and society needs to become more charitable, we're actually becoming less charitable. You know, the iconic sight during the Great Depression was breadlines. The iconic sight during the Great Recession is conservatives sneering at the breadlines. But as always, my question is this. What's the alternative? To the guy who would complain about kids getting free school lunches, what are you going to do about that? Is the idea that we ought to let the kids go without the lunches? Frankly, are we supposed to let them starve? The people who show up at the emergency room but can't pay for their care, what are we going to do about that? Do they get turned out into the street without seeing a doctor? Maybe some conservatives haven't thought it this far through, but my fear is that a lot of people have, and that they would answer yes. And so consider the society that these people would create. A Darwinian place where the poor, bloodsuckers or not, you know, are going to be turned out into the street because they're not getting any more of my tax money. And maybe Glenn Beck's ideal society. Sure as heck ain't mine.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit. Greed.